Good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, I want to thank the Bay Planning Coalition for inviting me here today. Actually, I thought I was part of the magic show. Well, anyway, I'll do my best to talk about water and power. Again, I'm Harlan Kelly. I'm the General Manager of the Public Utilities Commission. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about the department. And so we're a department in the city and county of San Francisco, which has a lot of challenges in itself. So we provide drinking water, we provide wastewater, and we provide power, municipal power, to city-owned facilities like City Hall, Muni, Airport. And so it's a very robust operation. We have about $850 million in operating costs. And we have, as mentioned before, $10 billion in capital. We have about 2,300 employees. So we have a very big organization. And within the water side, we actually have wholesale customers, which is part of the Bay Area. It's about 6 billion residents and businesses that we serve. So it's really one of the third largest public utilities in California. So it's really a big system. And so the main thing about water and energy, I mean, we're very fortunate at the PUC because, as you know, they're really dependent on each other. So, for example, when you have water and you want to move water and serve water, you got to pump it, you got to treat it, and it requires a lot of energy to do that. And then creating energy like, coal or nuclear, it requires a lot of water, hydro too. So they're very much dependent, and one of the great things about our organization is we control a lot of that. And so we look at options to find that sweet spot. And so what I want to, okay, let's see. Okay. And so, our Hetchy system, we're just so fortunate that, we wasn't fortunate how it came about. It was an earthquake, the city burnt down, but, as you know, you take advantage of those terrible situations as opportunities. And what we did is we looked for a way to really get a water source that we can rely on. And so, thank you for turning the lights down. And so in the 1920s, we actually, it's a 100-year anniversary where we got the legislation to build our reservoir. And so our system that we have, click? Okay. It's an amazing system. Our main source of water, which is about 167 miles from San Francisco, about 3,000 feet higher than San Francisco, and it's gravity fed. 85% of our water is about 117 billion gallons of water is in our Hetchy reservoir. And as we mentioned, we had the Yosemite National Park had the rim fire, and we were very concerned about our watershed being affected and debris getting in our water source, because that source of water is very pure, because not too many people utilize a watershed because the terrain is so challenging. It's granite. And so when the snow melts, it just runs off into that granite reservoir, and we just serve it up, and we don't have to filter it. So for those of you that have bottled water, shame on you. So when you compare the operating cost of delivering water, when you look at pumping it and treating it, since 85% of our water just kind of glides down the hill and just flows naturally without pumping, you can see our costs compared to other water projects and also the average water agencies. So you can just see that, God, it's a good deal. The other thing you point out is not only you don't have to use a lot of water in moving the water around, but by the water coming to us, it generates hydro. So actually, we have this moccasin plant that we generate about 250 megawatts of power. And so it's a really amazing, and we bring in about 160 megawatts in the city to serve our customers, our municipal customers. So it's just an amazing system, and it really ties in the nexus of water and power. Also, we have our wastewater. And so that is challenged as well because we are trying to look at ways that we can have a closed system, meaning that we also, when you treat wastewater, there's opportunity to regain the power. So we're looking at bio gases in the digesters to capture that methane to produce power so that the system can be sort of take advantage of those opportunities to use the energy generated to power the plant. The other challenge is that, and it's sort of a common goal between our water and wastewater because we want to treat the water such that you can use it for irrigation, you can use it for flushing toilets, and also for cooling towers in commercial buildings. And so that's one of the focuses that we're working on because as the Bay Area expands, the population increases, we are looking at making sure that we have enough water supply. And so since we control the wastewater and we treat it, instead of dumping it in the bay and the ocean, we're looking at ways we can use that water because right now we're using that precious Hetchy water that you're not drinking, and we're using it to water and going down the toilets. Now, is this amazing when you look at that? I mean, everything has a cause and effect. So, of course, one of the main things that we're looking at is people use less, then we can treat less, and therefore it's less energy costs. But you base your operations on a certain amount of usage. So when you ask people to use less, you have to pay a little more because you're still moving water the same way. And so the other thing is that when you look at water and you use low flow toilets, that means it's not a lot of water. And then when you look at your sewer system, it's not really a lot of water to move the solids along the pipes, and then you get odors. So for those of you that come out here and walk around the pier, this is the low area, and we don't get a lot of water flushing solids. So you may sense a little odors in this area. And I'm blaming it on conservation of water, low-flow toilets, by the way. But you kind of see the nexus because before that wasn't thought of when they came into designs. And so we do have an opportunity to put about $10 billion into our systems. And the thing that we're really looking at is sort of balancing everything. So when we talk about challenges is, like I mentioned, we have limited water supplies, the energy, high energy bills, and then growth and climate changes. And so those are things that, we are really working with other agencies to address. So what we wanted to really focus on is an integrated approach. And so with the integrated approach, what we're doing is it's like, buying a washing machine, for example. You look at a washing machine and you look and say, well, I want a water, energy efficiency washing machine that use reduce water, and that's affordable. So you kind of look at all three. And so when we start looking at projects now with the PUC, we take all that in consideration. And so, for example, at the Lake Merced pump station a few years ago, we were looking at a system. And so one of the concerns is, well, while we're looking at a pump, how can we design it in such a way that we can reduce the power, especially during peak load? And so we designed a system that actually was able to pump the water off peak time, and so that we can do the treatment during we could actually pump the water off peak time so that we can reduce our power consumption or the costs. And so when you have that flexibility, you're able to make those trade-offs. As you mentioned, one of the major realizations that we came up with the rim fire is that we were very concerned for our power and water And for the power side is that we have 3 powerhouses, electric powerhouses that are located next to the reservoirs. And as we bring water down, they generate power. And we were very concerned, one, that the powerhouses may be impacted by the fire, but the ability to transmit the electricity to San Francisco. And we were very concerned that the fire would take out our transmission lines. And so that's one of the concerns that we had. And so we looked and say, well, we're very vulnerable. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is to diversify our power. On the water side, we were very confident because, as mentioned before, we wasn't really concerned that the dam would burn. We were concerned about the fire getting in our watershed and actually causing havoc. And then when runoff happens, you have a lot of debris falling in your reservoir, and the water that we wouldn't have to filter, we would have to filter. So if you're filtering water that you didn't have to filter, which represents 80% of your water, that's a lot of filtering that you have to start doing. So we were very concerned about that. But we were able to move water to other parts of our reservoir. We have local reservoirs that we were able to move water. And so we had some diversity, some flexibility, and we wanted to start looking at how can we diversify the energy supply. And so we're talking about solar. We're looking at ways that we can really try to diversify our energy and water usage. Of course, we encourage conservation. That's something we do first. Instead of looking at ways that we can recycle, we first want people to use less. And we do certain things that really encourage people to use less water. And one of the things that we do is we actually give free audits. We have free audits of businesses and residential to look at ways that they can actually use less water. And so we are very proactive in that regards. And by doing that, you can see how San Francisco stack up to other agencies about the amount of water use. And so, given the fact that we don't have yards, but and swimming pools and other things, but ignore that. But I'm taking credit that we do a good job of conserving power. And so, through this, we're looking at ways, of course, you want your buildings that are, landmarks to showcase. And so what we've done with municipal buildings is that we are now installing LED lighting to really minimize the energy consumption of these buildings. So the other thing that we're looking at is innovation. And I think it's really a great time when you're getting ready to spend $10 billion on capital and you're looking at maintenance, looking at opportunities for to look at innovation. And so a lot of the things that we're looking at are new technology, and we're also looking at the triple bottom line, things that cost, and also we're looking at social benefits as well. And so I'll talk more about those things that we're considering. I think the major thing that we want to accomplish is that, yes, you can try to tie in and reduce your energy consumption, your water use. You can look at maximizing the sweet spot of, how can you be more effective in delivering water and using less energy. But also people who use the water and have to pay for the power and pay for both, they need to understand what you're trying to accomplish and how to get them to buy in, because sometimes this solution is not the cheapest solution. And so you really need to look at ways to be inclusive. And that's one of the things that this mayor, the previous mayor, and with me is really, if we're impacting communities, we should make sure that they are participating in what we do to serve the rest of the city. And so one of the things that we are looking at is putting community benefits into our contracts. And so some of the things that we're doing is that at the southeast, where 80% of our wastewater goes, we're getting ready to spend about $2 billion in that community. And they've been putting up with failing sewers, digesters where the roofs fall in, there's a lot of odors, and it's just been really impactful. And so what we're looking at ways that we can design it in such a way that it'll be a point of destination. We want to really invest in that so that the community can be proud of the plant that we plan to build there. And so we're looking at community benefits, we're looking at environmental justice policies, which our commission passed several years ago. In fact, the ex-commissioner that passed it is Juliet Ellis. Where is Juliet? Oh, she's right here. And once we start operationalizing it, she decided that no one could do a good job, so she decided that she's going to run the program herself. And it's been very great. It's been well received. And I think the communities really appreciate when you're able to participate in rolling out these programs. And so that's one of the major initiatives that we've been able to do. The other innovative things that we've been doing are trying to get these things done faster. And so we're looking at different delivery methods, and one of the ones that we are using quite extensively is what they call job order contracting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with job order contracting, but city governments typically you have to design it, you got to bid it, and then you award it, and then they construct it. Well, what we're doing is we're getting contractors and identify all the lists of things that we want them to do. They bid on that, and then they're there, ready for us to say what we want them to do, and it's in this big book that we've identified, and they just put a fee or factor on it and say, I'll do the price in the book plus a premium. And so we base it on who has the lowest premium, but they're on standby. So once we start identifying work, they jump on it and knock it out. So we're trying to be creative in ways and very efficient as we roll out these programs. And so the last thing I just want to point out is that, San Francisco is, I think, one of the best cities in the world. I think we're trying to be innovative. And I tell you, to be the general manager, I've been general manager for about a year. It's a great organization. I think that we're very fortunate to be so innovative. And also, we have the water and the wastewater systems, and we generate power. And it's a great opportunity to find how we can do all three in a way that will benefit our ratepayers. And so with that, I'm here to answer any questions, or you want to keep rolling? All right. So no questions. I like that. So that ends my magic show.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.